for the ultimate source of inspiration, knowledge, and entertainment, look no further. Network Kingdom is a unique platform that brings together experts from various industries. Through networking and collaboration, we create inspiring conversations that educate, entertain, and motivate our listeners. Whether you're a business professional, an entrepreneur, or simply someone looking to grow their knowledge base.
Hello, guys. It's me again, Omu, your favorite person. And today I have with me Ed Rossman, all the way from Cleveland, Ohio. Hi, Ed.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Great. Thanks for having me on.
It's my absolute pleasure, trust me. So who is Ed?
Well, my deep background, I'm a former broadcaster, teacher, and librarian. I fell in love with radio back in the 1980s, and I went on to get a master's degree in communications, radio, TV from Ohio University. And I worked in the broadcasting area for about 12 years at different radio stations in Denver. And my last one was in Cleveland, my hometown. And I was a business manager and produced news shows. And I also did I started the station's, actually the city's first website in 1995. But the corporation, thank you. It was the new frontier. And look where we are today.
Nice.
The corporation, though, was bought by somebody else. They downsized, and I needed another job. And there was a library very close to me, and they were looking for business help, business office help. So naturally, I went there because I was a business manager. But they said, no, Ed. After talking with the director and learning about my website experience, he said, I need somebody like you who can talk to people, who has technical skills. I have a lot of good men and women working for me that are good with computers, but they can't talk to the average person. It goes right over their head. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll do that. So I did that. Then I picked up a second master's degree in library and information science from Kent State University. And from there, I moved on. I worked in Lakewood for a while. Then I went to Shaker Heights, Ohio. And that's where I ended my career. I was adult services librarian and a branch manager. And it was a very fulfilling career. But then I contracted cancer. And at that point afterwards, after my recovery, I was still very weak. And they were very good to me at the library. They said I could do whatever I needed to do up in the office. I didn't have to be on the front line, but I liked the front line. So I liked being, I wanted to do more than that. And I just didn't feel that good taking up space and getting paid for it. So I just said, look, I've got enough years in, I can retire right now, give the full-time job to somebody else. So that's what we ended up doing. My cancer journey was tough. In August of 2017, my sister developed a brain tumor, and she had a very tough time with balance. Wow. And then with memory, and then just basic functioning. And we took her to a lot of different hospitals and nursing homes trying to figure out what was wrong with her. It wasn't until I really got in a doctor's face one day, I said, look, maybe she fell down and had a concussion. You guys haven't tested for that. Do a brain scan. And they did, and that's when they discovered the tumor in October.
Oh,
and
my
then,
goodness.
Yeah, they just didn't run that test. They thought it was her kidneys. And that was kind of aggravating, but at least we had figured it out. And at the same time, shortly thereafter, in early November, I saw a lump on my neck, and I just thought it was swollen glands. And they said, they looked at it, and then they said, no, it's not swollen glands. You've got a cancerous tumor. So I had surgery at the end of November to take out the tumor. Betty was very quickly declining then. She passed away on December 30th, 2017. And I pushed off my cancer treatments until, after we were done. I was her caretaker, took care of the estate and various other things. And then from there, I started my cancer treatments around January 17th. And in the meantime, my boss at the Shaker Library told me, she knew we had problems with my sister. Nobody really knew from one day or one week to another where she could be visited at. So we used a platform called caringbridge.org. Caringbridge.org. It's a free service. And if you're not a Facebook person, you can still put your email address in. I signed in, and I would give journal entries every other day or so, letting them know where I was, if I was home, if I had what I had for the treatments that week, things that were going on with me. And it's a great way. We wish we would have had it with my sister, because she had a lot of friends. She was a teacher, and she had a lot of friends who wanted to come visit her after school, and family members and people like that. And we bounced around with Betty. She had a much more technically complex disease. So she was like, she'd go someplace, she'd have to stay overnight for a couple of nights and then come back. So God bless her. We weren't able to use that then, but I used it CaringBridge, and I put in journal entries, which actually became the foundation of my book, A Guy's Guide to Throat Cancer, Do's and Don'ts for Recovery. And,
wow. So that means it was throat cancer you had.
Yes. Yeah. The tumor was there, and they took it out, but it was still, it had remnants there that they couldn't remove surgically.
If you don't mind my asking, right? I mean, you started your career as a broadcaster on radio.
Yeah.
So that meant you did a lot of talking.
Yes.
And then you moved to the library, and you liked to be on the front line, which gives me the impression that you like to communicate and talk and, have conversation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love the light bulb going off over somebody's head.
So, I mean, how was it? How did you feel having throat cancer? Because it's like taking the hoe from a farmer.
It was tough because this was prior to COVID, and I had to be pretty much isolated from people. So that was very tough for me. I couldn't go back to work for 4 months. From January until May, I was pretty much at home. The only time I left my home was to go to the hospital for radiation treatments and chemotherapy.
How did you survive that?
It was not the most, I made the most of it. For radiation treatments, the first day that I went in, they were playing rock and roll in the radiation chamber. They had a CD player, and I said, hey, can I bring in my own CDs? Because I had to be there for like 20 minutes. And they put you in a chamber, and they revolve, and they shoot the radiation into you. And they said, sure. So I brought in Motown, Led Zeppelin, extended songs from Yes, the Beatles, just to keep my own, so I wouldn't have to be thinking about what I was doing. And then for chemotherapy, that was actually 8 hours every day. And that's something that I detail in my book. I had no idea. I always heard of people getting chemotherapy, and they gave it to Betty, but you have to experience it yourself. They change, and they put all sorts of different drugs into you. And then you leave there, at least I did in my treatment. They gave me steroids at the end so that you would feel okay. So I left there like feeling really strong for 1 day. And then after that, boom, you hit the wall, and you start feeling going down, and you get there's a 2-week period that I had that was a very low energy period. And what was tough was when I was off, I was hoping to be able to watch the NCAA basketball tournaments. There's usually 4 days where there's like 64 teams competing against each other. And for the first time in my adult life, I was getting, hey, great, I'll be home. I'll be able to watch this whole thing. I fell asleep through most of it. I was very weak, very tired. I was like, Tiger Woods won a golf championship during that time, the Masters. And I was like, oh, this is great. I'll be able to watch this whole golf tournament. And I'd start turning it on, not off, because sleep was an issue. That I had a food tube because my radiation burned out my throat, I couldn't eat anymore. So what I had to do is I had a food tube, a peg tube, they call it, inserted into me that I would pour nutrition, like just a liquid nutrition, kind of like they advertise them now, Boost and Ensure, but this is more medical grade. And so I would pour that into myself, and the tube itself helped me. It didn't help me sleep at all. So that's another topic I discussed in the book, the importance of sleep, the importance of keeping up your strength, and sleep is definitely part of that. So I try to take naps and do whatever I could at the time, as well as motivation like the music, being able to listen to good music and keep your spirits up. I had to change the dressing every day for the peg tube, which was messy. I'll spare you the details. But there's a band, there's a group called the Chambers Brothers, and they have a song, Time Has Come Today, which was always one of my favorite songs. And it had a short version for the radio, and then they have an extended version that's 14 minutes long. And that was just the exact amount of time that I needed to clean the peg tube and reseal it back up. So every day, that was my motivation. I said, okay, time to listen to Chambers Brothers. Time has come today. And it was good because music, as I tell people now who have contract cancer, one of my buddies just, he discovered he had cancer in 3 different places in his body. And I said, oh my goodness. Yeah, it's in his, a nasal cavity, right behind his eye socket, in his liver, and somewhere else that escapes me right now. But I told him, Eddie, get a mixtape together, get a motivational, put your favorite music on while you're doing it right now. It'll give you something to do, take your mind off the disease. And when you're really feeling down, you could play this tape and feel a lot better. So it's whatever, that helped a lot.
So, you've said a lot of things, and so much is going on in my head. And excuse me, I work with children living with cancer in Nigeria. I work with children living with cancer, and looking at these kids, they give me so much strength and hope, because I look at them and they're still smiling and they're still, making fun and generally acting like kids they are. I look at their parents. I mean, some of them have other kids. They still have to look after the other kids, and they're still trying to live life as normal as possible. And sometimes I get all drawn emotionally, and I get tired, teary, and I'm wondering, for an adult who actually understands the whole, import of what is going on, I honestly have a lot of respect for people like you who are able to work out ways to motivate themselves and stay happy. I'm looking at you and I almost feel like saying to you, how can you be laughing? Because I'm imagining that, where do you even find the strength to listen to music? Because I haven't had cancer, and even the slightest challenge that I go through, I probably would lock myself in the room, in some dark room, and wallow in self-pity. And as a coach, I would say to people, play music, go out, get some sunlight and all that. Some of these things really are easier said than done. So my question really is, when you were going through this, was it from the beginning, from the minute you knew you had cancer? Because obviously I can tell you've always been a vibrant person. So, I mean, you're full of life, being a broadcaster, but then again, being a broadcaster and being diagnosed with cancer of the throat is enough to dampen anyone's spirit. Was it from the beginning you were able to keep your spirits up and try to be positive and cheerful?
Well, for me, once again, keep in mind, we had just lost my sister, and everybody was afraid I was going to be next. And I did not want that to be the case, obviously, just for my own selfish reasons, but the love for them. I tried to, in my journal entries, which were reflected then in the book, I tried to be upbeat, motivating. I didn't want my dad to worry as much, any of my siblings, any of my other friends and my family who had just seen. We had also lost our mom in 2017. So we had lost two most important women in our family. I still have a sister, thank goodness, but it was a tough time. So I couldn't be down. I could not be down. It's not my nature. And I would look for things, even though I might be weak. Your attitude is very important. I'm a man of faith, so I did a fair amount of praying. Luckily, I had a daily mass readings that I could read and I could share with my not Facebook, the Caring Bridge crowd. And then I use tricks like, this is different, not difficult. The words that you use are very important. And same thing when you're dealing with your children.
Not difficult.
You can see the difference between eating is different. Eating is difficult. Showering is different. Not showering is difficult. Those two different changes could make a world of difference. And keeping in mind that you're going to go forward. I use the term this week a lot. People were asking me what's happening. I said, well, I can eat Jell-O, but I can't eat mashed potatoes this week. So I would be say, I can't do it now, but I could do it later. If they ask me a question about something that I could not do, I would just say, not this week. But that's the attitude that you have to have, because there's going to come a time when you will be able to do that. And that's what I try to impart with them with that. And for body language, I visited a number of people in the hospitals and they would not want to look at you. They'd be looking down or looking away. And I always look people in the eye and just try to, when you try and have positive body language, it infiltrates into your mind. And I think it also helps the healing process.
It does. And there are two things you've said that I certainly am going to practice. It's not difficult, it's different. And really, it's just different. It's not difficult. And then I actually am one of those who would say, I can't do it, or it's not possible, or I can't do it. But if I said I can't do it now, I can actually feel the difference.
Yes. Yeah. And absolutely. Yeah. I can't do it now versus I can't do that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can't do it. I can't do it sound like finality, no hope. And that's that. I can't do it now sounds hopeful. You're going to, like there's a chance. It's not final. And I mean, that actually makes a lot of difference. That actually does make a lot of difference. But I must say that I'm super proud of you. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, we're still having this conversation and I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of someone who's going through that, who is listening to this now. And I can also identify with people who would say, oh yeah, it's easy for you to say you're not the one who's wearing the shoe.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I like the fact that it's also coming from you who has been there. But I also want us to be able to, because I know that there are a lot of people who are there and they know these things, they honestly want to do it, but they're not able to. Maybe willpower or some other thing, I don't know. What would you say? I mean, with you, now I'm not sure, but it could be that you, because you had gone through the phase of your sister, you had family. I also hear the bit of family support, or like a good support system, which is something that I've been talking about lately, that people need to leverage their support system, or at least build a support system for times like that. Build a support system, friends and family. It always comes in handy. So you had the support system and all that. So what are those things you think that can actually get them to that frame of mind to better equip them to practice these things, like playing music, going out in the sun and all that?
Well, first of all, even if you're not technically oriented, the Caring Bridge platform, if you're sick, you could always find a friend or a sibling or somebody else who could be your co-administrator, who could set it up for you. It's very easy. But if you have access to that technology, that's, and it's on the internet, so it's like, pretty easy to do. And then push yourself to put that journal entry in there, even if it's once a week. But then you'll see your friends will come back and they'll flock to you. They may not all be able to come visit you, but they'll be able to say, hey, Ed, you're going to do great. Hey, Ed, listen to this song and stuff like that. I still have after 5 years, my salivary glands are still burned out. So it's just one of those things where I get used to it, and I have to stay disciplined by staying hydrated and stuff like that. But as far as it's June is actually National Cancer Survivors Month. And if you know anybody who's had cancer, check in with them. They may not know. They may be like me. Somebody meets me on the street, they'll say, oh, that guy's fine. I can barely taste anything. After talking, that's why I don't teach anymore, which is unfortunate. I was teaching for a while there, a number of years at Kent State. I taught courses in business writing, the internet, various other things. I love that, teaching with kids, but I can't do it now because I cough a lot after an extended period of time. But I would encourage people to go, even if your friend looks well, just check in. And the fact that somebody asks about that gives that cancer patient survivor a little bit more of a boost, because there was a quote from somebody, I can't remember who, I think it was Plato: be kind, for we are all fighting some kind of battle. And it's one of those where you just don't know. But if you go in and say, hey, how's it go? How is that lung cancer? Are you all done with that now? And just give them a chance. If they want to talk about it, fine. If not, that's okay too. But it's like, at least they know that you were remembered, that they had gone through that struggle, and that they were actually, somebody else cares about them. As far as getting through it, my natural inclination is to be detail oriented. So that's another thing, to fight chemo brain while you're going through the sickness. I apologize for that. What you have to do is get detail, or write down what you're doing all the time, when your medicines are, did you take them, have a daily checklist of stuff. Okay, I've got to take medicine at 8 in the morning, noon, 4 o'clock, those types of things. That'll keep you engaged, and it will keep you from getting too fatigued that you fall back on that, and that only makes things worse. So what you want to do is you want to stay detail oriented. You want to grab as much sleep as you can, even though you may miss your favorite sports tournament. And then and use the 12th. There's an expression called the 12th man on the team in cricket and soccer, various other things. That's the extra person, those people around you that are helping you out, cheering you on in the stands. That's the type of thing that you also need to nurture, basically, because those people will help you out. They'll give you that extra push to help you, cross the finish line. And sometimes that's what it takes, whether or not it could be their prayers, could be their jokes.
Yeah.
like bringing over one of my cousins on St. Patrick's Day. She knew I couldn't go out, but she came in anyway, and she stood outside the door, put it down on my doorstep. Here's some Irish, like, some soda bread and a couple of little things. I ended up giving them to Kathy because I couldn't really eat them, but I said, that's a great gesture. Thank you very much. And those that 12th man on your team, nurturing those relationships, and with your medical team, the medical team. Well, from working with kids, I have more respect now than I ever did to the medical team, the nurses and the doctors who man these radiation treatments, infusion centers. They do their best, and sometimes it just doesn't work out, and they've got to see their patients die. And that's a very tough thing. So I always try and encourage them, be nice to them, and try to be same thing with all the other people in the waiting room. We are all in God's waiting room. And I try to be a good role model when I'm in those situations, and try to help those people out. If they messed up a little bit, as long as it's not totally bad, but just they might have misplaced something, or I might be delayed, forgive them, because we've all been forgiven. And what I try and do is just keep that good attitude in mind, and that also, I think, helps you out, helps one through adversity.
Wow. So what are you up to these days?
Podcasting. Actually, yeah. What I'm doing now, I'd say the bulk of my work is working with my father, who's got dementia. And I'm over there 3 or 4 times a week trying to encourage him. He just turned 90. And but he's not in his right mind. I mean, we still make him joke. He's still got a very sharp mind at times, but he needs guidance and somebody to get his butt out of bed. And he stays in bed way too much. So I'm one of the few that could go over there and get him out of there. His nurses and the physical therapists, when they come, he yells at them, get out of my room, go take care of somebody else. And it's like, Dad, they're just trying to help you out, man. So that's a lot of my time. I've been researching more into podcasting because frankly, I just started within the last month, and I find it's an easier way for me to reach people. I have been doing talks in my local area of Cleveland to various men's groups, and just talking about guy qualities that can help pull them through any kind of cancer or COVID or any other kind of disease, whether it's discipline, strength, attitude, and I give Bible scriptures and reinforcement through that. And and then every Monday night I golf, and right behind me there's a hole-in-one thing. I got a hole-in-one about 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Nice.
So that was cool.
I know that you're a volunteer driver as well.
Yes. Yeah, for the American Cancer Society. And that's
so how does that work?
It's like a matchmaker kind of thing. People put up times when they need rides, and then I go to that platform and I see whether or not that's available for me. Occasionally the Cancer Society will push requests out to people, and they may be beyond where I'm comfortable driving, but they may say, hey, Ed lives 40 miles away from you, but he needs a ride to go into downtown Cleveland. Nobody else can do it. Can you help out? And if I can, if I don't have anything scheduled for my own father that day or whatever, I'll try and go do that. But most of the ones are locally within 15, 20 minutes of drive for me to go get them, pick them up, take them to a hospital. And what they are, that's a treatment. It's a service that the American Cancer Society provides. And it's very helpful. A lot of the people I have, either they don't have anyone else, or the people that they have in their immediate support group are working during the day when they have their treatments. So a lot of times I'll take somebody there at noon, and they'll say, don't worry, my daughter will come pick me up at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I said, okay, fine.
That's really nice. That's really nice. And before we go, can we see your book again? What's it
Oh, sure.
called?
It's available on Amazon, and I don't know how the thing goes. It's
Yeah, I
every one of
can't
those
see it.
symbols, a guy's guide to throat cancer. The dartboard represents my chemotherapy treatments. The rockets are radiation. The weights are for keeping up your strength and exercise, and the guitar is for rocking musical
Yeah.
motivation, and it's all on the scaffolding of the cross, all on faith, to
Oh,
support.
wow.
The reason why the book was entitled like that, there's a heavy metal band called AC/DC, and they did a song called Thunderstruck, and that was their song, and overlaid a bunch of military cannons shooting off, helicopter gunships, very violent thing. That's the nature of the song. And
Okay.
I said, on Caring Bridge, you're allowed to post music videos. So I posted about 15 of them. And when I did the one with AC/DC, I said, I hope the radiation is doing this to my cancer cells. And one of my librarian friends said, oh, Ed, you're such a guy. And I said, yeah, okay. And then I realized after I was done, when I went back to work in May, they a lot of people came up to me and said, hey, we're glad you're back, but we're going to miss those posts. Those were really cool. And I said, okay. And I was just going to print it off as a big PDF, but instead I actually decided to go through a publishing company, Christian Faith Publishing, and ended up printing the book. And now unfortunately, it came out right when COVID hit in February of 2020. And so it got kind of a slow start. So I'm still getting the word out about it as best I can.
Awesome.
It's
Congratulations.
it's combination of it's a good calling. And I'm finding out more and more. And I'm always reinforced when people come and they let me know that, oh, I read that. Now I know I'm not the only one who had to go through that. Or you gave me
Yeah,
some good ideas.
nice to know that you're not alone.
And some women have come up and said, I really like that book. I gave it to my husband, and men are the worst patients in the world. That's
I
another
agree.
reason why I geared it towards that, a guy's guide. Because otherwise, when I was at the library, I researched it. There wasn't that much written about it, and definitely not that much written that was accessible about cancer treatments and how it affects your life and things. So what I did was basically, okay, well, it's good for women to read, and they might say, oh, here's Tom Brady, he's a football player. He's one of the best in the league. He's playing football until he's 40 years old. He believes in hydration. If it wasn't for this, he would never have played as long as he did. But he's a real firm believer in hydration, keeping your joints flexible and stuff like that. And that's how he was able to play for like 23 years, getting slammed and then bouncing back up and playing again. They can tell them that, oh, he uses Tom Brady or Led Zeppelin lyrics or whatever, analogies to movies and other stuff that their husbands or their boyfriends or whoever might like. And normally they wouldn't read that. But now they're like, oh, well, that's interesting. And then when they go through it in 2 days. So
Awesome. Awesome. Wow, Ed. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors. And I'm certainly going to look out for that book.
okay, thank you very much. I appreciate
Thank
sharing
you.
my story with you and your audience. I hope everybody
Yeah.
got something a little bit out of it.
Hey, guys, I always say it, we never look like what we've been through. And there's always hope. It's not difficult, it's different. So let's go out there and make a change. The time is now, right? There's nothing you can't do. Even if you can't do it now, you can do it later.
Mhm. Yeah. Maybe not this
Awesome.
week, but next week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you.
guys. Thank you for listening. I'm out.
You've been listening to Network Kingdom with Omo Obulor.